Without the mark, no one can buy or sell.
What if they're right? What if we can't survive without it?
And what if taking it means losing our souls?
I'm sorry, man. We can't take cash anymore. You'll need to scan your mark.
But it's all I have.
We like your credentials. But before we can finalize your position, you'll need to take the mark.
It's the only way in!
They told us it was just progress, just technology. Just another way to make life easier. But prophecy warned us. It would come disguised as convenience. The hardest decisions won't happen in war zones. They'll happen around dinner tables, between mothers and fathers who just want to feed their kids. They raise their hands in celebration, but they don't see the chains glowing on their skin. A mark that promises freedom, while binding millions to darkness. And the world cheers, never realizing prophecy is being fulfilled right before their eyes. Revelation was never just a story, it was a warning. And the signs are no longer coming, they're here. Choice won't come with thunder or fire, it'll come quietly. And when it does, whose mark will you bear?
All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, and I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today, I just want to do a quick lesson on, this article that came out, earlier, and pretty much what is going to, end up tying into. So it says the U.S. Mint has ended production of the penny after 232 years, so they're no longer going to produce pennies, and that should be alarming to, you American citizens, which obviously they're still around, people still have, thousands, if not millions of them, because, I got, plenty of pennies myself, but if they're going to stop the production of those, next will be nickels, then dimes, then quarters, and eventually the dollar itself, which is going to lead to what? The mark of the beast. So I'm just going to bring out a couple of scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. And it says, according to reports, the United States Mint will cease production. It's like it will cease producing new pennies more than 2 centuries in circulation, while existing pennies will remain legal tender and continue to circulate. The Mint has placed its final order of penny blanks, and production will stop once that inventory is used up. So again, no more pennies are being produced. Again, like it says, pennies that are still in, circulation, they still can be used, but eventually, you won't be able to use pennies or any change for that matter, because just like the clips that I featured, man, again, eventually, that's what it's going to come. That's what it's going to boil down to, you having the mark of the beast, because again, this is why they're setting up that digital infrastructure. This is why everything is going to be on computers, why everything, is going to be electronic, because most of America uses, their phones, like I myself, excuse me, Slakia, like I myself, I pretty much, I don't always have cash on me. So what, I'll use my phone, to pay for things. Is it convenient? Yes, it is. But at the same time, what, I really hate it, because what, it's eventually leading up to the mark of the beast. Not saying I'm going to get it, because Lord willing, the Lord keeps me, during, the hour of temptation, but at the same time, that's one way, we when I say we, I mean, us here in America. We do, transactions. If you don't have cash, you'll usually use what? You'll use your, your credit card or your debit card. Or if you don't have either of those, what is the quickest route? You using your phone, and eventually it's going to be, your hand, you're just going to have to swipe your hand. Excuse me, it's like you just have to swipe your hand over a scanner, then it'll pay for whatever items, because again, man, we're in some very, very serious times, man, and we're seeing the mark of the beast being set up, all roads are leading to that RFID microchip, which is the RFID, which is the mark of the beast. The RFID microchip is the mark of the beast that is spoken of in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, verse 16 to 18. Because some Israelite groups will have you believe that the mark of the beast is something else other than what it actually is, which is a microchip, man, that is actually going to be implanted inside of people's hands and heads, which people already have them now, but what is primarily going to be pushed here in America. This is why these different nations are backing away from the dollar, because it's not backed by anything. They're just debt certificates, just like back in, the 1920s, when people had, silver and gold, primarily gold, they would do what? They would go to the bank, deposit their gold, and then what? They would get a certificate, like, for example, I recently, purchased a silver certificate, a 1935 silver certificate, and it looks like, just a plain old dollar. But, again, it's a silver certificate. Is it worth a little something? It may or may not be, was worth, something. But at the same time, that's what people would get, in exchange. And they would keep that certificate, go back to the bank, to take it back out, But what? In this current time, the U.S. dollar isn't backed by anything, It's just debt. So what eventually, the dollar is going to be phased out. It's going to collapse because it's not backed by anything, and because it's, it's weak, This is why these different nations are trying to set up, their, digital currency or their digital infrastructure as well, but primarily that digital currency, like over in, the UK, they're rolling out the digital ID, So again, everything is gradual right now, and it's going to be optional at first, but then it'll be mandatory. It'll be something that you're going to have to get if you want to continue to live in, this next, society, in this fourth industrial revolution, which a lot of people are going to get, because what? They're going to want to survive. They're going to want to eat. That's mainly going to be these people's driving force to get in the mark of the beast. Hunger, to try to prolong their lives, but in reality, they're still going to lose them anyway. So, yeah, it's better to trust the Lord than to put trust in Esau, Edom's chip, which is ultimately the Lord's chip anyway. But still, man, it's better to trust the Lord than to trust his man, because trusting his man is going to lead to your destruction. So I'm going to get the book of Revelation. I'm actually going to grab Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10 first. And it says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. And right, man, this is what we're hoping to be delivered from, the hour of temptation, which is going to be what? Us having to make that choice of whether or not we're going to receive the mark of the beast. Because again, even though it's going to be made mandatory, in order to survive, in Esau, Edom's digital system, it's still going to be a choice. They're going to give us a choice, either, receive the mark of the beast, or you may be beheaded. Pursuant to Revelation 20:4, certain of the elect, will be martyrs. They will be beheaded, and that'll be their testimony, dying a honorable death, for the Lord, enduring to the end, and other, members of the elect, they won't be beheaded, but they may be tossed into concentration camps. They may be, tortured, or they just may be outcasted completely, and just left out there. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, we just pray that the Lord keeps us during the hour of temptation, man, that he delivers us from getting the mark of the beast, because we know what the latter end is going to be for those that get the mark of the beast, and which is going to be what? Death, man. And not just any death, man. Death by thermonuclear missiles, man. People are going to be burned up, just like it says in Revelation, the 14th chapter. Those that get the mark of the beast are going to be burned up, and we don't want no parts. I speak for myself when I say I don't want no parts of these nukes, man. I don't want to feel that fire, man. I don't, and I do lessons, on nuclear missiles every Monday, but, it's evident. You can just watch, again, just when the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, man, people's shadows were vaporized into the wall, man. People are still feeling the effects of the radiation that was left over from those bombs till today, 80 years later. And just like I did, a video on Castle Bravo, Monday night, the island of, let me see, I forgot the name of it, starts with an R. Rongelap, island. Even though Castle Bravo was tested on Bikini Atoll, one of the neighboring islands was also affected by that, that fallout. But the main point, I'm trying to drive home is that, man, we're just hoping to be delivered from this device, because we know what the judgment of those that receive the mark of the beast is going to be, and which is going to be to die a very, very grievous death, which, I don't want any parts of, so, Lord willing, Baba Kasha, the Lord has mercy on me, and all the sincere men that are out there laboring, it's a very serious thing. That's why it's a good thing to fear the Lord, man, because most of this world, they don't fear the Lord, but they're going to in the very near future. So I'm just going to end it with this. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 13. And I'm going to start at verse 15. And it says, "And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed." And, we know that America takes after, the customs and philosophies of ancient Rome, the lifestyle, the different things that they did, and that's pretty much what, America is patterned after. It's patterned after ancient Rome, and just like it says, those that don't receive the mark of the beast, Esau, Edom, starting with the elites, they're going to want to take us out, Lord willing. Verse 16, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." And right, man, this is a physical thing. It's not spiritual. This is literally a physical thing that is going to go in people's hands, and you don't have to go far. Look up Chip Girl, a lot of people, let me see, I think they said about 1,000 people over there in Sweden, were just chipped, even though a lot of those people over there already had it, but still, man, they're pretty much already ahead of Americans because they got it already. They're pretty much using the thing, man, and again, that's how you're going to be able to buy and sell in the world to come, unless you have that device, and we're hoping to be delivered from it, man, And it says here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 600 which, ultimately goes back into the UPC code. The first bar is a 6, the middle bar is a 6, and the last bar is a 6. Because again, these people, they're going to have that device in their hands, man, and that's how they're going to be able to pay for things, with a swipe of their hand, or, they're going to scan their foreheads for the people that are, maybe, excuse me, it's like, for the people that may be, handicapped or paraplegic, that pretty much can't use, their limbs. These devices, they're going to market it as if it's something, that people need, or if it's, so convenient, and that's how they're going to get you people, man. It's going to, as Esau Edom's false miracle, because we're seeing that, certain of these people that have, gotten the Neuralink, you clearly see, they're able to do certain things, like the one guy, he's able to play video games with just, his mind. They also did it with a monkey. Like, we're in very, very serious times, man. And this is what we're looking to be delivered from, the mark of the beast. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. I'd like to give divine honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till next time I say, Shalom.
Entry denied. You have criticized the government.
Sorry, last week you purchased too much meat and now your access to your money has been denied.
You haven't let the government know about this trip and your access is denied.
You have gone over your carbon credit allowance of food this week and your access to food has been denied. A day in the life of UK school children 2035 with digital ID. You have gone over your electricity allowance this week and your access is denied. You have gone over your weekly travel limit and your access is denied.
Bruce Kowalski. Your monthly universal basic income has been deposited into your account. For more information, press details. You have been paid 2,000 central bank digital tokens. The following fees are being deducted: accommodation fee, food ration fee, recycling fee, clean energy fee, personal greenhouse gas emissions fee, climate change fee, diversity fee. Your current remaining balance is 5 central bank digital tokens, and if not spent, it will expire in 7 days.